Nixie, obviously Saligo training with the seconds today. Will he stay there this weekend?
Not decided yet. Probably more than likely, but it depends on a couple of other things. We've got a few guys we've still got to work through. I can say Laddie won't play this weekend. He's just a little bit banged up. The shoulder's a bit too sore, so we won't take a risk there. So that changes a few things for us because he's obviously a really important part of that midfield. So that'll bring in or give the opportunity to others that have played some really good footy at SNFL. So Crouchy's probably a standout of those guys. Haitley, he's playing great footy. Schoenberg. There's a number that we could talk through. So that's the most pleasing part. Is it's disappointing that Laddie won't be there, but we've got guys that deserve an opportunity.
So Crouchy more than likely play, do you think, this weekend?
Yeah, I think so. From a like-for-like point of view, both inside, both very good first hands players. Matty's shown that now all season at SNFL level, that he's ready if and when called on, and it's probably one of those weeks this week.
How impressed have you been with his attitude the last sort of year and a bit when he's been out of the side?
Yeah, I think this year's been outstanding. He's led the way at SNFL. Our team at SNFL is playing some of their best football, and it's because of some of the experience of Matt. Madgen, he's another one back there that I was able to sit on the boundary at Glenelg on the weekend and listen to those guys leading, through voice and instruction. And so, they've been really impressive with what they've been able to do with some of our younger group.
Do you suspect it's a 1 week only absence for Laddie?
We hope so. I mean, it's one of the swelling there at the moment is something he's got to work through, and the pain. So, yeah, we'd hope by next week. I'm no expert in that space, but talking to the experts, we were hopeful we might be able to get him up this week, but in the end it's been too much of a push.
How many other changes do you suspect you'll make?
Well, there'll be 2 forced because Josh obviously goes out as well. So there'll be at least 2. I'd say, we won't make a hell of a lot of changes, but it may end up 3 or 4 changes this week. We've got a few guys that are, as most teams are, I think, grinding at the moment, that we'll have a look at. We'll try and bring in a little bit of freshness, a little bit more energy, maybe a bit of a spark at some point, but we might be able to do that through Laddie's absence and Josh's absence as well.
Is Riley one of those at some point? How do you sort of assess?
Steelthorpe?
Yes.
No, not at this point. I think Riley's playing some good footy, continues to improve. He knows he's got things he's still got to work on, but for a young key position player, we're really pleased with what he's bringing at the moment.
Was Max one of those?
Max is definitely one, that we'll have a look at. A first year player that I think everyone's sort of saying, well, what a level he's played at. Probably did him no favours on the weekend, played him on one of the best players in the competition, but we actually thought he did quite well in that role. At times was beaten. I think Toby's beaten everyone in the game. So, but there's some soreness there. Just general soreness. We're having a look at that as well.
You were pretty proppy at training this morning, Michaelani.
Did he? Well, thanks for that. I do go back and watch a bit of the vision, but
was that just in my head, or is it?
No, it's probably not in your head. Yeah, I've had a chat to him post training as well, and he's a very honest young kid, and he wants to play footy, but he also understands that it's a long season, and we'd love for him to be at his best, at his freshest. I think he's still given 100% effort. I think he still, as I said, I think he played well on the weekend, although it is tough when you're not quite at 100%. So we'll have a good chat after this.
Every loss hurts. Sorry, mate. Did that one on the weekend hurt a little bit more than others? And is there any concern about the ability to bounce back?
From a personal point of view, it hurt me more than most games have, most losses. Yeah, I think it was a really big game, but we butter up pretty quickly. We get together as a group and we look through it. We find a lot of positives in it. The fact that we're up in the position we're in at 3/4 time. It was always going to be a tough game. They came in good form. They continued to play that form as well, and we were up to that for majority of the night, just not the last quarter. So we go through that. We have a really good look at it, and we learn from it. The unfortunate part, I think we're most a bit frustrated. We've been there before. This is not the first time we've gone through this one. So hopefully that's the lesson we needed, and we get it right if in that position again.
And then Nankervis had been talked about before. I didn't see him on the track today, I think.
As in the debut.
As in
Yeah.
getting closer to selection, but
Yeah,
I don't
definitely.
think he was out there today.
Yeah, he was there. He was out. Yeah, he's definitely close to selection. He's one of those guys that, maybe given the opportunity at the higher level, he's playing great footy at SANFL. He's playing a different position to where we drafted him as well. We're working him off half-back at this point. So he could become a really good swing man for us because he came in as a half-forward, liked to go at the ball in the air. He's learning his craft behind the footy at the moment. Who knows, he may end up on a wing. But, I think we might see him sooner rather than later. Maybe not this week.
Just when you look at Melbourne, Matthew, I mean, you performed okay against them in the last couple of years. What do you have to focus on to get right? Midfield's the obvious one, but if you can just elaborate on what you...
Well, I mean, like any good side, they win contest. And, they have amazing shape on the ground, but when they win that contest, they dominate you. And that is part of that midfield, that fight and battle in there. So we're going to have to bring contest. But at the same time, the MCG challenges you in different ways as well. It's a big ground, so there's room to work in. But if you don't have the ball, it makes it a really tough ground to play against. So, Gawn leads from the front. It looks like he's playing a lot more around the footy. So that'll be our challenge, what he's able to do with his midfield group and whether we can match that. We don't expect to come in and dominate them in that space, but match that and give ourselves a chance to play. We actually really enjoyed playing on the MCG a couple of weeks ago. It gives you the space to work in. If you're there in the contest, you give yourself a chance.
What's the key difference from a preparation point of view when you're coming up against Gawn solo as opposed to the two-headed monster?
Oh, it doesn't change much. I mean, Gawn solo is a really, really tough task. But we'll back our guys in. Rob's playing some really strong footy. He definitely gives us a hand on the ball. I'd say one of our work-ons at this point, which we've been working on for a long period of time now, is that connection between ruck and mids. We get a number of hit-outs. We don't often get beaten in that space, but that ability to win first possession and get ourselves, I guess, above in the clearance number, that's one we've still got to be better at. And that's connection, that's cohesion with our mids. Unfortunately, we lose Lairdy this week, which is going to challenge us, but whoever steps in is in pretty good form, so we'll back them in.
What about connection with your forwards at 13 inside 50s, I think, in that last quarter last week, only behind? What's been the focus this week to address that area?
Yeah, and it's more about how it's going in there as well. It's not all on one area, it's not all on the forwards, it's not all on the mids. When we play our best footy, we do everything as a team, so when we're able to review the game and go through that, when we're coming from our D50, it makes it pretty tough, especially against a team like the Giants. They've got a very strong back line, led by Taylor, who's was obviously outstanding on the night. So we made it hard for our forwards though as well. We didn't really deliver that ball like we have earlier in the year.
Petrarca's probably one of the comp's best in-forward forwards at the moment. A unique challenge up forward.
They just keep throwing names at me. That's the challenge when you play Melbourne, isn't it? You could keep throwing names at us. That's why they're such a good side. It looks like he's more forward, hitting the scoreboard, and a really tough matchup. That's the issue you have when you go up against Petrarca. He's a speed and power player. That's where I think the game's going. It's been there for a period of time. That's why he's so dominant. But our guys will put their heads down and go to work this weekend.
In terms of your midfield mix, I noticed at the start of the year, Rochelle and guys, some of your younger guys were getting more CBAs. You've gone to more of an experienced mix later on. What's the reasoning behind that?
Yeah, it's not about. It's not that we want to go more experienced or that we don't want to go young. It's really comes back to that sort of wear and tear and fatigue that can set in at this time of the season. We mentioned Max, Solly, being rested. Josh going out through suspension. There's probably a need there for some management as well around Josh. He's one. Lukey Pedler, this is his first time where he's really cracked in at AFL level, let alone midfield. And so leaving those guys in there for too long, the fatigue sets in and we don't get the same level of performance. So I understand the frustration. We'd love to play those guys in there. I think moving forward, they're going to be great midfielders for this footy club. But if they're not able to continually play at the level because of fatigue and the standards dropping off, we're not going to leave them in there and throw them to the wolves. will bring in some of that experience and battle away that way. But we're always looking to play a mix through that area.
One more on Michael, sorry. So he is in doubt to play this weekend?
Yeah, it's not. The only reason I'm not telling you is because we haven't confirmed it yet. But I've had a good chat to him. He's less than likely